Opposition leader Raila Odinga has rated President William Ruto's performance in his first 100 days in office as below average, listing a series of what he termed unkept pre-election pledges. From the state of the country's economy, policies on reducing the debt burden, removal of subsidies on fuel and maize flour, inclusivity in government appointments to compliance with Article 6 of the Constitution on leadership and integrity, Odinga has awarded Ruto 4 out of 10 points in his first 100 days at State House. But as Francis Gashuri reports, the president, through his spokesman, Hussein Mohammed, has watered down Odinga's audit of the Kenya Kwanza administration's takeoff.
From 13th of September 2022, when he was handed the reins of power by his predecessor Uhuru Kenyatta, the clock has been ticking for President William Ruto, with an eye on the pre-election pledges he made. Some of the campaign promises had a 100-day implementation pledge. With the lapse of that short-term frame, Azimio la Umoja coalition party Raila Odinga and his team has released his assessment report on Ruto's takeoff as the country's fifth head of state. Odinga seeing nothing rosy in the Kenya Kwanza administration's first 100 days in office, terming the tenure the road to nowhere and a major departure from the promises made on the campaign trail. On a scale of 1 to 10, Odinga rates Ruto's performance in the first 100 days at 4, terming his administration a below-average regime. He accuses the president of failing to match his promises with tangible results that would change the livelihoods of Kenyan people. The president has removed his predecessor's subsidies on fuel products and maize flour and replaced it with low-cost fertilizer, ostensibly to improve food production and reduce the cost of living in the long term. The cancellation of subsidies, according to Odinga, was akin to pulling life support from the mouths of Kenyans, leaving them to their own devices. The subsidies, according to Odinga, were cushioning citizens from the vagaries of a harsh economy globally, and likened their removal to pulling Kenyans out of the frying pan into the fire. The president anchored his pre-election campaigns on reviving the economy with a change of model to onboard the vast majority of Kenyans at the lower level. However, 100 days later, Odinga says the Kenya Kwanza administration lacks a plan or economic blueprint to move the economy from its current status towards the path of recovery and ultimately to prosperity. On the president's choice of officials to constitute his executive, Odinga faulted the appointment of people with integrity questions to the cabinet and other parastatal leadership slots. Similar criticism directed at what Odinga termed lack of inclusion in the government to reflect the nation's ethnic diversity. Odinga also faulting the Ruto administration over what he claims was divisive rhetoric that has permeated into the government months after the general election was concluded. Odinga's audit of President Ruto's 100 days in office also includes questions on his pre-election pledge to allocate 50% of cabinet slots to women. The administration's foreign policy also on Odinga's audit report, with questions on the president's choice of persons appointed to manage the country's foreign affairs. On the debt question, Odinga claims the president had initiated a new borrowing spree despite his pre-election promise to get the country out of the debt cycle that has hit the 10 trillion shillings plus mark. Despite the president launching the Hustler Fund and statistics indicating that more than 10 billion shillings had been disbursed as low-interest credit, Odinga says the Kenyan youth had been taken for a ride by the new administration. But the president, through his spokesman Hussein Mohammed, dismissed Odinga's criticism of his administration 100 days in office, terming it the beauty of democracy, where everyone was at liberty to do their job. According to the president, the true verdict of his performance and the government's takeoff would be rendered by the Kenyan people and their voice heard at the ballot in 2027. Francis Gashuri, Citizen